I'm Lauren from Pack Hacker, and in this video we're going to be taking a detailed look at the Patagonia Black Hole Pack 32 liter, which I've been testing for the last 2 weeks. If you found this video helpful, hit subscribe so we can keep making content to help you travel smarter. Let's dive in. While the outside of this bag looks pretty intense, it is fairly simple. So this entire material here, this is a post-consumer recycled polyester ripstop, and it has a TPU film laminate, which definitely has a shiny look to it. It's a little bit crunchy, so you can definitely hear this pack when it's not completely full, especially. And it does, the look may not be for everybody. We do have some pretty large Patagonia branding here. They do have a few different color options, so if this isn't your style, definitely go check those out. But we do have some webbing on the side here. It's like a little daisy chain, so you can attach gear if you want using like a carabiner or something like that. You have a lot of customizable options for where you actually want those to show up. And then we have a little handle right here. So this actually gives you a little bit of extra support when you're picking this bag up. So we do have this handle on the very, very top here on this, towards this back handle, but this is really best for hanging it up or quick grabs or something like that. What's nice about this handle here is it gives you some support. So when you pick up the pack, you can grab it from the bottom and grab it from here, and then you can lift versus, trying to lift it like that. It's a little small thing, but the handle stays pretty much out of the way. Honestly, it took me a while to kind of even remember that it was there. So I didn't really feel like it was in the way or anything like that. We do have a slightly reinforced bottom as well here. So overall, the pack in terms of its materials and everything like that, it's really sturdy, and it's fairly simple on the outside, as I mentioned, not a ton going on, apart from those first couple of features right on the front there. The harness system is fairly straightforward as well. So starting off, we have a sternum strap here, and this is adjustable based on daisy chains as well. You do have a little bit of adjustment within each of these little loops, but we generally sternum straps are on a rail system because they give you a little bit more granular adjustability, but this fared pretty well for me as well. With these little straps here, you can use these to hold a water bladder tube in place, and that hole, it actually feeds through here. So feeds through, and then you can kind of clip it here or feed it through. So that is great if you want to use this as a hiking pack or something like that. And then on the back here, the rest of the mesh padding, both on the straps and this actual back panel here, is pretty well padded. So this is an air mesh padding. I found it to be pretty adequate for me. I didn't really feel like I was really lacking any. It doesn't really have a ton of just very obvious airflow. There's no channels or anything like that. It's a little bit right here. It's just the padding is kind of missing. But even so, I didn't really feel like I was overheating or the bag was too heavy. It felt pretty solid even for extended carry when this thing was packed out pretty tightly. Like I mentioned, even with the harness system being as simple as it is, it's still fairly comfortable. So with the size of this pack, it does come down a little bit further than I generally prefer on my actual back. Usually I'd like it to be a little bit more here, just so that it doesn't kind of hit at the wrong spot on my lower back. But even so, with all of that said, the actual straps themselves do a really good job at keeping it comfortable with this bag fully packed out. I do have a decent amount of gear in here. And so that does a really great job with that. And it does stay pretty sleek to your body as well. You can see it has kind of a rounded shape. It kind of curves with my body. And so that definitely has comfort as well. I can feel my device in the laptop sleeve, which we will get to in a second. But I can sort of feel where the stiffness of that laptop actually ends, which is a little bit uncomfortable. If you don't carry a device all the time, then it's not a huge deal, but definitely something to keep in mind. So now we're going to look at the secondary compartments on this bag. So starting off, we have a front zippered pocket here. You can see this paracord zipper pull. These are YKK zippers. You can see the pull, which is kind of your indicator of which side it's on. There is not a zipper on this side here, but there is on this side. And so that is how you get into this little pocket here. Or I guess I say little pocket, but it's actually pretty large. So it starts up here where this handle is and then ends at the very, very bottom of the bag here. And there's no internal organization in here, so you can see that all my items that I have in here are just sort of dumped in there, which I don't love. I think that this pocket is just a little bit too large to not have any organization. There's no key leash in here. I'll get to where that is in a moment, but something to keep in mind if you have a bunch of small stuff in here as for like quick grab items, then they could jostle around a bit. So the reason I have them in here and not in this top compartment is because I use this top compartment for something else. So this is another little zippered compartment, and here is where I have my toiletry bag. So this, what I like about this being at the very, very top of the bag is that it's really great when you're going through like TSA or something. You kind of know where your toiletries are going to be if they ask you to take them out, and it does have a pretty like hefty bucket shape to it as well. So I was able to fit a larger toiletry bag. I mean, I have this one here, which is fairly decent size, and then in addition to that, I was able to fit like some stuff that didn't fit in my toiletry bag. I was like just a little bit too small, so I had like a full-size deodorant that went in there too, and that was really great. I liked being able to like know where that was, especially for like quick grabs for getting ready in the morning. But if you don't use it for toiletries, that's a really great spot to put all the tiny gear that could otherwise just like get kind of jumbled around in there. In addition to those two pockets here, we have two water bottle pockets, one on either side. This mesh I found to be really, really stretchy. I have a 40-ounce water bottle here, which you can see fits very, very well. And then I have I believe this is an 18-ounce hydro flask. The hydro flask is, you can see like it bumps out a lot easier, but unless I was throwing this bag around, I didn't really feel like it jostled out or anything too intensely. You know, it felt fairly adequate for my carrying needs personally. And then other than that, it's, you know, like I mentioned, fairly simple. You have these two external pockets, these two water bottle pockets here for all of your extra gear, and then anything else that you're going to be carrying is going to go inside of that main compartment. So before we get into the main compartment, I want to talk about this back laptop compartment. So you get access to it using these dual zippers, so you can unzip it from either side. You can put the zippers down at the bottom here, you can put them up at the top. Either way, you're going to have to unzip this thing fully to get access to your device. So in order to do that, you have to move these backpack straps out of the way. I don't have a ton of adjustment space down here just because of how high I need the backpack to sit on my body based on my torso length, but if you do have more adjustment, it's going to be a lot easier to just move these out of the way and like keep them out of the way. You can like fold them over the bag essentially, but what you do is once they're out of the way, you unzip this, open it fully, and you have access to your laptop. So they do this so that you can just send it through at security, but if TSA asks you to take it out, obviously you're going to have to do that, so definitely just listen to them. But you do have some storage options in here. So we have a laptop compartment that has like a buckle closure, and it can fit up to a 15-inch device back here. So that is a great option. Like I mentioned, all of the space up here, or like I can feel my laptop through like the back panel. It's like a little bit stiffer where the laptop actually is, and then this here is where it's like less stiff, and then down here as well. So it is pretty decently padded, but not overly so. I mean, it has a decent false bottom, and then there is a device sleeve here. I just kind of put the keyboard in there so that both of these are together. But just something to keep in mind, I found this access to be a little bit clunky. Granted, you're probably not going to be, you know, taking your laptop on a hike or something like that. So, or like, you know, if you don't travel with a laptop and you don't need to access it a ton, then this isn't really that bad. It's just more of a preference thing. I got a little bit annoyed trying to unzip it all the time. You can also like unzip it a little bit of the way, kind of poke your hand in there and take it out. Truly just a preference thing, really. So I'm going to zip this back up, and then we will get into the main compartment. So this opens, the zipper is kind of at like this angled design, and what's nice about this is that when you open up the bag, even though it is a top loader, you have more visibility of your gear inside. So you can see it's kind of like, it's creating a bucket shape without making it so that you only have like this amount of space to see all of your gear, or that you're, you know, kind of like folding back less of the flap and kind of losing out on the storage space, because this whole, top bit is where that toiletry bag fits really well. None of the space really interferes with each other. I just found it to be a really kind of cohesive design. And so on the inside here, in terms of storage options, we just have one zippered pocket. This is where I kept like tech items that didn't go in that back laptop compartment. So I have like a mouse in here. I'd put like a wall charger and a cable and things like that, which is really great if you travel with minimal tech. This is also where you find the key leash. So this is not great for everyday carry because it's a little bit hard to get to it, obviously. Granted, like I mentioned, this is a 32-liter backpack if you're not using it for everyday carry. I like that the key leash is in here because then it's not in your way if, like I went on a trip and I didn't drive, so I didn't need my keys. And I was able to but I needed them for like when I got home. So I just put my keys in here. I didn't have to think about them, and because they weren't in the front compartment, they weren't in the way. So kind of a love-hate relationship with it, just depends on your use case, but the key leash is in here, not in the front. And then otherwise, we just have an empty bucket of space. So I have two fairly large cubes in here that you see fit pretty much like to a T, and the rest of that space is empty. So I'm going to stick this back in here. One of the things that I really liked about this was how easy it was to load. You can see I just kind of slid that in there. It's a little bit harder to get to gear if you like really layer things up. I think here is a good example of why like packing cubes are very, very handy. It's because then you can just like pull out cubes instead of pulling out individual items. When I went on a trip with this, I ended up not using cubes, and I just kind of layered everything in there because I wasn't bringing a ton, and I definitely wished I had cubes. It just made it a little bit easier to navigate everything, but they fit very, very nicely. I just kind of stacked my gear almost like this, and then this fits right on top. I felt like I was able to these zippers did a really good job at like holding all the gear in, so I felt like I was able to almost like overstuff this and still close it and really efficiently pack. So there you have it, the Patagonia Black Hole Pack 32-liter. Thanks for keeping it here at Pack Hacker, your guide to smarter travel, and we'll see you in the next one.